And we're back. This is Hook and Ladder. What week are we on now? This is week 12?
Yes, sir.
Week 12.
One more game left in the season, in the regular season.
Well, let's just go ahead and get right into it. It's a weird week of football. A lot of close games, a lot of teams that should have blown out. Other teams didn't blow them out, and actually some of these teams actually took the L.
A lot of 6-4 teams came to play against top 10 opponents.
That's right. And I guess let's get started. Georgia knocked off Kentucky 16-6. Will Levis actually played like a first-round pick.
Yeah, basically, for almost 4 full quarters, Will Levis looked good throwing the football. Another 6-4 team, giving Georgia some trouble. This one's a little odd. Never in any doubt for the Dogs, in my opinion. They were able to move the football up and down the field pretty much at will. Went kick field goals instead of touchdowns, I think 3 times in a row. Finally got the touchdown. 4th and goal. Couldn't punch it in on the goal line. A field goal would have made it 19-0 in a 3-score game. But Kirby wanted to punch it in. I get it. Like you want your team to know you believe in them. Try to punch in. It didn't happen. Kentucky drives 99 yards, scores a touchdown, make it a little bit closer, but in reality, this game wasn't much in doubt at all. But Kentucky played well. The defense looked good.
Yes, it did. Offense,
Rodriguez had a couple of nice runs. Will Levis had 2 really nice deep balls. Other than that, it was kind of some dink and dunks. Georgia just didn't play as well as I thought they have in the past. But this is one of those games, man. Looking at this list right now, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah.
6-4 teams giving top 10 teams fits. And Georgia's one of those teams that got a fit from 6-4 Kentucky.
Ohio State knocked off Maryland 43-30. This was a much closer game than that score would indicate. Maryland was actually in the lead there late.
Two late touchdowns, one very late defensive score. Kind of made the score look a little skewed, but it was a tough game. Got to give Ohio State credit, though. They were down to the 3rd-string running back, and dude played like a beast. Scored 3 touchdowns, went over 100 yards. They just, one of those teams just keeps reloading with talent. I watched this game, and I thought when Henderson left again with the foot injury, like I guess maybe a little re-aggravation, if you will, that they were in trouble.
All right.
Because Stroud was passing well, but they just weren't throwing the football all over the place like I'm used to doing. I believe they were 6-4 as well. Maryland, giving Ohio State fits, but I got to give Ohio State credit.
Yeah.
There was a point in the 4th quarter where they were just like, okay, screw this. And then they clamped down, boom, 2 quick scores. Made that score look a little more lopsided than it really was.
Right. Moving right along, Michigan in a nail-biter knocks off Illinois 19-17. 6-4?
I think that was 7.
Okay, 7.
Maybe a 6-4. I know.
They may be 7-4.
Yeah,
now.
They weren't ranked.
Right.
Illinois is a good football team. Definitely came to play. Michigan was down a lot of starters. I watched this game as well. Blake Corum looked really good first half. Goes out with a knee injury, unfortunately. Yeah. Don't know how severe that is, but looking ahead to next week without him, they have 0 chance to even compete with Ohio State.
That's right.
But got to give Illinois credit. They came to play. Brown looked pretty good. Ran for 140. Had 2 touchdowns. He looked good. Illinois' defense looked pretty good. Michigan, with all those guys out, they looked out of sorts. Tight end was out. Dudes dropping passes. JJ didn't look all that crisp, but 4th quarter, late in the 4th quarter, 4th and 3 play to keep the drive alive. He gets them down there. They kick a game-winning field goal. So I got to give him credit.
That's right.
They got it done when they needed to, but man, Illinois looked pretty good. I really thought they were going to lose.
Yeah. Survive in advance.
Yeah, survive in advance. So at this point, when you're playing all the 3 games we've talked about so far, freezing cold, when you're playing like that, Ohio State, Michigan, Illinois, they're all used to it. Kentucky's kind of used to it being in Kentucky. And Georgia played a really, really good game last week in the freezing cold and the 20-degree temperatures. Yeah. So no excuse, but you got to think.
Weather played a factor. I think the wind was blowing 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, in all these games, I think weather has somehow played a little bit of a factor.
Moving right along, TCU in a nail-biter knocks off Baylor 29-28. A last-second field goal with the win.
I think Baylor was also 6-4, if I'm not mistaken. Man, Baylor looked good in this game. They were taking it to TCU. TCU would come back and score. Baylor would score. Baylor always had the upper hand. TCU scored a late touchdown, missed the next two-point conversion. Got the ball back late, very late. Went down, and just like they practice it, get the ball, everybody get up and run off the field. The field goal team runs in, kick a game-winning field goal. They're still alive in the playoffs. I know Tennessee fans were much irate at the outcome of that game, and we'll get to them in just a few seconds.
Yes.
But a fun game. I'm really glad TCU's still alive. I'm really hoping they get into the playoffs.
Yes. Number 5, Tennessee was knocked off by South Carolina, 63-38. Spencer Rattler played like that guy who was supposed to be the Heisman Trophy candidate last year.
He played like the 5-star number 1 pocket QB that he was when he was recruited
6 touchdowns.
Oklahoma. He looked amazing. And then this dude Wells at wide receiver. I know that got Josh Vann. They got good tight end. No Lloyd. They had a tight end playing running back who looked awesome. And this Wells kid was catching everything. Running in end arounds for touchdowns, catching 3rd and 20. Yeah. He was catching, beautiful throwing balls by Rattler, catching multiple same plays. They were running this exact same play, and he was catching crossing patterns 25 yards downfield. Tennessee's defense, man, he gave up 63 points. I know they didn't have their leader out there, and Hendon Hooker went down with a knee injury in the 4th quarter.
I heard a rumor that there was an altercation before the game with Hendon Hooker.
Either that day or the day before. I don't know how true that is. I don't subscribe to Tennessee's message boards. Based on everything we heard on Twitter, it was kind of conspiracy, maybe, hearsay. Tennessee fans, though, they've been talking nonstop about rematches with Georgia, or if they played at a neutral field, or if it wasn't raining in the second half, and if Georgia didn't just run the football and kill the clock, and all these, just talk. And then they were pissed at TCU. They were pissed at Illinois for losing. And then they come and give up 60-plus to South Carolina, another 6-4 team. First of all, you give up 63 points. You don't deserve to be in the damn playoffs, in my opinion.
Right.
But they got exposed. That defense is awful, and maybe it had something to do with that altercation. The rumor was Banks had a fight with Hendon Hooker. Kendall Milton, or not Kendall, what's his name? Milton, transfer QB from Michigan, had to step in and beat up this Banks guy. I don't know. That don't really seem like it's actually accurate to me, but whatever. Either way, they looked like crap. Offensively, they didn't play that bad. Wasn't their best game by any stretch of the imagination, but they scored. South Carolina was 7 for 7? 7 possessions, 7 touchdowns. Man, what a performance by South Carolina. That just saves their season. I heard it was the 5th time they've beaten a top 5 opponent since 2017. Good for them. Yeah. Tennessee's done. So no more Tennessee fan talk about how they can make the playoffs. They're out.
LSU knocked off UAB 41-10. I didn't see any of this one.
I did see that it was a little closer in the beginning before LSU finally took over.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this big one in LA last night. USC knocks off UCLA, and they're still alive to make the playoffs. USC was down there for a bit, came back. Both quarterbacks played well. 48-45, USC's victory. Man,
that was a fun game. I feel bad for DTR. I think that's the 3 initials there. But anyway, he looked good, but he threw a couple of picks that really cost him.
He hurt his hand.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those games. The announcer even said USC got the ball late with a lead, and then they got stopped by the UCLA defense. When UCLA needed to make a stop, they were able to get it. Yeah. And the announcer's like, this is one of those situations. If you punt, you lose. They punted, really good punt, dropped him back. And then UCLA threw a pick to seal it. Corey Foreman, number 1 player in the country a couple cycles ago, defensive end, linebacker guy, hadn't really lived up to the hype, has been hurt, drops back in coverage, makes a beautiful interception to seal it. A fun game without Travis Dye. Everyone thought, it was a huge huge loss for them, which it may have been. But this kid Jones, like number 9, really looked good. Ran hard when he needed to. Scored a couple touchdowns. Caleb Williams threw the ball all over the field.
470.
And what's that dude? Not Mario Williams, the other kid, Addison. Holy crap, that dude's legit. He don't drop anything. Although I did think he dropped the pass. No, that was Williams dropped the pass. Anyway, fun game to watch. Winner was gonna punch their ticket to the Pac-12 championship. USC wins to stay alive in the playoff race. It's a really fun game to watch. If you're missing these Pac-12 games, you're missing some fun games, man. Stanford Cal was an awesome game to watch as well.
No,
Stanford lost. Fuck them.
Yeah. USC takes on Notre Dame next week. So it's a big game.
That's a huge game. I don't know where it's at.
I think it's Notre Dame.
In a second, but man, Notre Dame won big yesterday, and they look pretty good.
Yeah. Let's see. Alabama knocked off Austin Peay 34-0. Clemson knocked off Miami 40-10. They're still alive. DJ went 227.
They took a hit though. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. Oregon knocked off Utah 20-14. Bo Nix played 286 yards passing. Didn't see any of this one.
I watched a good bit of it. Bo Nix, it was kind of an ugly, awkward game. Not the explosive plays you're used to from either of the teams. Man, Cam Rising, that dude's a gamer, but he threw 3 picks. They were like 0 for 4 on 4th down conversions late in the game. They just couldn't convert when they needed to convert. The tight end, Kincaid, like 11 catches for 99 yards. I mean, I just don't think Utah has the offensive weapons. Rising's good. He'll definitely win you games with his feet and his arm. I just don't think they've got enough weapons around him to beat a team like Oregon like that. But it was a really close game. A lot of people predicted Utah to win. Oregon to take 2 L's in a row at home. Got to give Oregon credit. Yeah. They stuck with it, and they just basically eliminated Utah and punched their ticket to the Pac-12 championship game.
All right. Penn State knocked off Rutgers 55-10.
Penn State's looking pretty good this late in the season. I mean, they're probably gonna make it into the top 10, and then have to go to Florida to play a pretty decent SEC team. Thinking probably Tennessee. Maybe
Ole Miss,
Mississippi State, possibly. Somebody like that in Florida, Outback Capital One. I don't see anybody from the East doing anything.
Yeah. I'll move right along. North Carolina stumps their toe against Georgia Tech, which has big game implications.
Yeah, so that's going to hurt Clemson.
Yeah.
Because North Carolina was number 13, poised to jump at least to 11. You beat them in the ACC championship game. That's a quality win versus a ranked opponent. North Carolina's probably going to get dropped quite a bit down now. So that quality win doesn't look as good. Clemson got blown out against Notre Dame. They really needed a highly ranked North Carolina opponent to beat to make the playoffs. I still think they're out looking in. I don't think they can jump up all these spots unless there's massive chaos.
Yeah, somebody's got to lose.
A lot of people got to lose.
Ole Miss got embarrassed by Arkansas. Arkansas knocked them off 42-27. Even one of the players got their helmet stolen last night.
Yeah, this is a clear example of don't let Alabama beat you twice. That was their season. They were a 1-loss team going to play Alabama. Beat them, and you're right in the thick of things still. Obviously, they weren't going to go to the SEC championship game, as earlier in the day LSU sealed it. However, that's a 1-loss. You're looking at a possible 11-1 season, going to the Cotton Bowl, something like that.
New Year's 6.
And boom, you just lose a heartbreaker to Alabama, and then you just get run over by Arkansas. An Arkansas team that's not all that good.
No.
You can run the football on Arkansas. And Ole Miss is the top rushing attack in the conference, and they couldn't get it done.
They laid a huge egg. Kansas State knocked off West Virginia 48-31. They benched JT.
Was he benched or hurt?
I think they benched him.
Because that was last week.
Well, I saw something where he's been benched. So I don't know. I don't know what the latest is.
I didn't watch much of this game. I watched just a little bit. But I do know that what kind of sealed the fate of West Virginia was a pick 6. And it wasn't JT throwing the football.
Well, it is what it is. Washington knocked off Colorado 54-7. I didn't see
Colorado, freaking terrible.
It should be much better. That's a cool place. I've been to Boulder. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while they're competitive.
Yeah.
This is not the Rashaan Salam days anymore, but every now and again they're a competitive program. They're just really, really bad right now.
Notre Dame knocked off Boston College 44-0. After a slow start, Notre Dame's actually having a decent season.
Notre Dame's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
All coming down to the last game of the season against USC. I don't know what kind of bowl Notre Dame's looking at. I don't really think it's anything spectacular. Even if they beat USC, I just don't see them jumping up high enough to get. They're Notre Dame. They're probably going to get a New Year's Day bowl.
Like Outback maybe.
I would think with Notre Dame it's probably going to be something more along, something maybe out west.
Okay.
Maybe go to the Cotton against an Ole Miss or Mississippi State. Maybe Alabama.
If they go to the Cotton, they got to actually win. They got to win next week. They're going to go to the Cotton. Yeah. Moving right along, Florida State knocked off the Raging Cajuns 49-17. Florida State ain't looking that bad.
Florida State's looking real good.
Yeah.
Right now, if you look at recruiting, they're the best team in the state right now. State of Florida, the best team in the state.
Interesting. Okay. UCF knocked off Navy.
No, UCF lost to Navy.
Navy
Holy
beat.
Shit.
Okay, yeah.
Navy just won a game without throwing a pass.
That's right.
I don't know. I mean, UCF was playing so good. I think that they're about. If they hadn't already, they're poised to punch their ticket to the conference championship game, and this happens.
Yes.
Just abysmal. No excuse. No. Speaking of no excuses, Oklahoma State. We both sigh. Getting blown out of Bedlam by Oklahoma, and it was not this close. It was 28-0 when I was like, screw this, I'm not watching this crap anymore.
Oklahoma State had a chance to make the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. They shit the bed last game of the season at the conference championship game. And now
they looked good. They lose a game, then they win a game. They look like, okay, maybe they've righted the ship. No. They're ranked number 22 right now in the country. Yeah. They're not going to be ranked number 22 tomorrow. They're out of the top 25.
And they don't deserve to be.
No, they don't. Well, I mean, they deserve to be out of the top 25. But, I mean, it's not this is a disappointing season when you have a guy like Spencer Sanders on your team bringing back a lot of guys on D. But Mike Gundy has won enough games. He's going to get another chance.
He's guaranteed 10-2 every year. Or not guaranteed, but that's basically what he's become.
10-2 is like his ceiling, in my opinion.
Yes,
that's his ceiling.
Yeah,
he's brought him to a couple of New Year's Six games. Handful of years back, they went to the Fiesta and won that game. I think they were going to win that game. Mm-hmm. They won it, and he's a good coach. He's basically the Big 12's version of Mark Richt.
Right.
And without the extra pressure.
Yes. Let's see. Oregon State knocked off Arizona State 31-7. Didn't see any of this one.
Me either.
NC State Louisville knocked off NC State 25-10. You see?
Louisville's starting to kind of look halfway decent.
They're finally getting it together with all these guys.
Yeah, all these guys, and the recruiting NIL stuff's going well for them. I think they're about to lose one of their top wide receiver commits, but they're using NIL to their advantage. They're turning things around. A lot of people thought if they shit the bed, coach gets canned. A lot of these dudes are going to jump ship, and so far, there's only a rumor about the one kid.
Mm-hmm. Cincinnati knocked off Temple 23-3. Didn't see any of that one. That concludes your top 25. Florida lost to Vanderbilt 31-24.
I got to give Vanderbilt credit, man. They looked pretty good last week. They looked good yesterday. They jumped out to a lead, and in years past, man, Vanderbilt would jump out to a lead against even an unranked team like Florida, and they would find a way to lose it.
Right.
And Florida kept coming back. I got to give them credit. Anthony Richardson threw for like 400 yards. Florida's defense could not stop them, and they ran through them. They were running through them. When has Vanderbilt run through teams? They were running through Florida yesterday.
Jay Cutler?
I was watching that game laughing because I wanted to see Florida lose. And man, I'm like, God, I kind of feel a little gross about it watching a team like Vanderbilt just run through Florida. But it happened. One thing I want to note, I won some money yesterday.
Yeah.
Won a good bit of money. So I spent it today with my daughter. Won a good bit of money on A&M. The spread of their game was like 33 points. And they didn't win by 33 points. They played 1-9 UMass. 1-9 UMass. And they looked ugly winning that game.
Yeah.
So I won a little bit of money. I bet that UMass would cover. They won 20-3. They won by 17 points.
Yeah.
A&M did not look good.
The stands didn't look good either.
No, they didn't. And their recruiting class isn't looking good. Walter Nolan, one of the top defensive tackles in the class, crown jewel of their recruiting, of their best ever in the history of recruiting class, has entered the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. So you hate to see that. Not really, but I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Screw Texas A&M. All the NIL schools, Texas A&M, Louisville, Miami, they all suck.
Yeah.
I hope they keep losing.
Let's talk about next week's games. Last game of the regular season for college football. We get it started off Tuesday night. We got Ball State in Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green in Ohio. If you really want to watch the football, you can watch the football. Thursday night.
Thanksgiving night.
Egg Bowl.
Football was meant to be played on Thanksgiving night.
Right.
I love every second of this.
Mississippi State against Ole Miss. Don't lose 3 in a row, Ole Miss.
Don't score a potential game time touchdown and then do the whole like fake dog pissing on the end zone. Get a 15-yarder and your kicker misses the extra point. You lose by 1. That's how coaches get fired. Mm-hmm. I have no idea who's going to win this game.
No.
If I had to guess, Mississippi State feels like they're playing for more. Mm-hmm. That loss yesterday to Arkansas was bad. I don't know if Lane's lost the team, if they're concerned by him bailing to Auburn or what, but I'm going to have to go with Mississippi State here if they can stop the run at all. Jackson Dart can't throw the football very well. Ole Miss runs it. If you can make them one-dimensional, you've got it in the bag. Yeah. I don't think Ole Miss defense is anything special, but then again, neither is Mississippi State's. And for all of the Mike Leach, air-rated, Will Rogers is great. He looked awesome yesterday, all them touchdown passes. The key is the wide receivers caught him. Wide receivers drop passes every game, multiple times a game on Will Rogers. Mm-hmm. He still has great stats.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this game. It's an awesome rivalry. If you haven't watched it, check it out. It's a hated rivalry. I didn't really think people in Mississippi State could hate like that, but, here we are. It's a great game. I'm really excited. It's Thanksgiving night. I get to pretend I don't feel well after eating Thanksgiving dinner, bail, and then go watch the game. Mm-hmm. Drink a couple beers, watch the game.
There you go. Friday, we have actually a couple of top 25 matchups.
Bunch of games on Friday.
We got Tulane against Cincinnati at noon. If you want to go check it out, you can go to you can ride up Cincinnati for $44. See a top 25 matchup. Baylor and Texas, high noon for $4. These are actually 2 decent teams.
Yeah, they're not bad teams. It's an unranked match, but that's going to be a fun game.
Yeah. NC State at North Carolina. 2 ranked teams.
3:30. That's maybe if North Carolina can beat them. Mm-hmm. I don't see NC State being ranked tomorrow.
No.
They lost to Louisville, but
you got Arkansas, Missouri at 3:30. You got Nebraska, Iowa, UCLA, California. UCLA get a win here. Maybe they can do some more.
Wow. Florida State is not on Saturday. 7:30 Friday night. Mm-hmm. We may miss that game.
That's right.
We may. It's not set in stone yet, but if we're not out of town, we're watching that game.
Yeah. Saturday, to be determined. Virginia Tech. They haven't actually announced a time.
Because they're the killing of the players. Unfortunately, that's awful.
Mm-hmm. Georgia Tech, Georgia noon.
Following one of those kids' dad on Twitter, and man, he's just posting stuff. I just feel bad, man.
Yeah, it's a bad deal. Big game implications.
Biggest game of the week.
Ohio State, Michigan, noon. Why this game is not 8 o'clock prime time.
I know. It's the tradition that it's noon. I've said it before, but a guy I know, I was like, why is this game always at noon? He goes, don't want to wait all day to beat that ass. So I was like, all right, that's a good enough answer for me. Is Blake Corum going to play? That's key. We'll find out this week. I watched that game. I didn't see him come back. Now, granted, I was kind of flipping.
Mm-hmm. Apparently he came back in the second half.
back in. He had a carry. Because when he went out, he had 7 carries. His final tally was 8 carries. Yeah. Anyhow, is he going to play? You never know. If he plays, Michigan has a chance. But if he doesn't, I kind of see Ohio State running away with this thing. Is the moment going to be too big for J.J. McCarthy? I don't know.
We'll see. South Carolina, see if they can do it again. They got Clemson at noon.
Clemson's defense can be had if South Carolina can continue that success throwing the football. If those wideouts can get separation and play as well as they did against Tennessee, South Carolina's got a shot. It's not a good shot, but it's a shot.
No. 3:30, Alabama Auburn. You never know about this game.
The Iron Bowl, one of the worst Auburn teams I've ever seen in my life, took Alabama into overtime. Alabama didn't score a touchdown in the game until about less than a minute left to force overtime. So you never know about this game. That was just last year.
Yep.
Auburn still sucks, but maybe Cadillac Williams will decide just to feed it to Tank Bigsby, and maybe Auburn might have a chance.
Bama's beatable.
Bama's beatable.
Yeah. So we don't know. We'll see. Oregon at Oregon State, 3:30.
Civil War. I think this is the one that's called Civil War.
I think it is.
Yeah. Which is weird.
Corvallis.
Being called that in Oregon. Usually it might be. Never mind.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Bo Nix, we'll have them ready to go. Think they're going to beat Oregon State. I'll probably be watching this game because the Auburn-Alabama game is probably unbearable to watch, I think.
But you never know. They got Illinois and Northwestern taking place.
Let's go Illinois, fighting the Illini.
Yeah. Finish the
Let's
season
get a big
strong.
win, finish strong, go to a nice bowl game. Maybe get down to the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville.
Yeah. TCU, Iowa State, 4 o'clock.
Possibly be a tough game. I think TCU is not losing until the playoffs.
Right.
But
Win in advance. Penn State's got Michigan.
Michigan State lost yesterday to Indiana. And I don't even know what else to say. They could have been so much better. They should have been so much better this year. A bunch of transfers, some guys who played a lot of football and for better teams jumped on board. And Mel got that. Tucker got that huge contract, and they just look bad. I mean, they were winning yesterday, and then they let Indiana come back and beat them. Penn State should run away with this thing to make Penn State's season. I think That's 10-2, right? So you make that's a decent season for Penn State. You're going bowling in Florida, most likely.
James Franklin keeps his job. Everything's heading on down the road.
James Franklin's an idiot.
Yeah. No. Utah's got Oregon at 5. Utah can finish off their season.
Colorado.
Excuse me. Utah. Yeah. I said Utah, Colorado. Oh, never mind. 5 o'clock. We'll see. What else we got? We got LSU, Texas A&M.
All right. LSU, Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Right.
For the 16th year out of 17 years, the Georgia Tech versus Georgia game is noon. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Georgia Tech's been terrible for a really long time. It's just at noon.
Right.
So they play at noon, East Coast. They'll be done by 3:30?
Yeah.
4 o'clock, tops. LSU's got to go to A&M and play a night game. I don't think it's going to really matter too much to the players, but that's just less time to prepare, in my opinion. Because for a fact, the minute the Georgia staff and the LSU staff, the minute they're done with the press conference and they're back watching film.
All right.
Georgia's going to have a couple hours head start. I'm kind of feeling like the way Georgia does it is the way Alabama does it. Don't give Nick Saban and his guys too much time. Seeing what Georgia did to Tennessee's offense everybody on Tennessee's offense was 100% healthy.
Yeah.
I think that could spell a lot of trouble for LSU. You never know.
Yeah.
I expect LSU to win this game, come in ranked, maybe the top 5. But you never know.
Yeah. We'll see. Let's see. We got Tennessee, Vandy.
Hendon Hooker's out for the year with a torn ACL. Milton's in. Milton looked pretty good last night. Played some deep balls in the limited duty yesterday.
Right.
I expect him to beat Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's playing well. I expect Tennessee to beat Vanderbilt, get up on them early. Vanderbilt's going to have to play catch-up, throw the football, and that's not their bread and butter. I expect Tennessee to right the ship and win and go to a respectable bowl game at 10-2.
10-2. So
have plenty of time to get Milton. I think this guy's name is Milton.
Yeah.
The dreadlock kid from Michigan. Plenty of time to get him for plenty of first team reps to go play in a really good bowl game.
Maybe the Sugar? Is that
The Sugar should be the loser of the SEC championship.
It just depends. I think it's like the higher ranked of the two teams.
Yeah, I think if Georgia wins, LSU will probably go.
Yeah.
We'll do a bowl game episode, but yeah, if it's LSU loses, the lower ranked team, we'll get that bid.
Yeah. Let's see.
Tennessee's probably looking at being in the East. They're most likely looking at the Capital One or Outback, depending on where Bama goes, which could be Cotton.
Yeah. They might be.
They like to take teams from the SEC West, so it'd be Bama, Ole Miss, which has 3 losses now. I don't think the Cotton wants a 3-loss team. I foresee Bama getting in there. I think Tennessee will go to Capital One. Ole Miss will probably go to Outback, and then maybe Kentucky, possibly Mississippi State will end up going to that Gator Bowl. You never know.
The last game of the night that's going to have playoff implications is going to be the USC Notre Dame game. USC wins that game. Wins next week.
7:30.
7:30.
It's at USC, so a little bit of advantage I think for the Trojans. Don't have to go to Indiana in the freezing cold. A lot of Big Ten fans say, "Why don't SEC teams come up north?" I think it's worse because SEC country does get cold this time of year.
Yeah.
Doesn't get cold ever in Southern California, ever. So that would have been a huge advantage to Notre Dame. That's going to be a tough matchup. Can USC stop Notre Dame's running attack? I don't think Notre Dame is explosive enough to stay with USC in a shootout, but they want to ground and pound. They did that to Clemson.
Yeah. And you got Pittsburgh taking on Miami at 8.
Yeah.
$4. You can fly to Miami. We can get the little cheap flight on Frontier. Go down there, check it out. BYU's got Stanford.
Let's go BYU. Stanford, go to hell.
There you go. That concludes next week's slate of games. You want to start talking about bowl projection?
Let's
playoff?
do some maybe quick little playoff implication deals here, and we'll do bowl. Bowls will be after the SEC, after SEC championship and championship weekend.
Okay. We got 2 weeks. Okay, so here we are. Top 5 teams right now: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, and USC.
Yep. Tennessee falls all the way to 9. Ohio State, Michigan, obviously going to play each other. Depending on who wins that game, I really think the loser's out.
Yeah.
I can see a scenario where Ohio State might lose a close game and drop only to 4. USC and TCU both have to win out. Obviously, everybody kind of does. TCU and USC's schedule is a little bit tougher. I think TCU is going to have 2 very good opponents coming up. Whether they win this week or not, if they win, stay alive, then they're going to play Oregon. So that would have been 3 ranked opponents in a row that they got to beat just to get in. I think TCU's road, they're playing Iowa State this weekend, and I have no clue. Maybe Kansas State, who they already beat. Maybe Kansas. I don't even know who they're playing in the Big 12.
I think Kansas State's like 15th in the country. Right.
It might be them because it goes basically like record, and they do a round robin. So you play.
Kansas State's 15.
Yeah, you play them again. Yeah. So what are they? 8-3.
Right.
They're probably going to play Kansas State again in a conference championship. Kansas State went up on them big when they first met, and then TCU came roaring back. So I still think USC's got the toughest road to go. But man, if they can win these next 2 games, they'll probably jump up. Yeah. They'll jump above 4.
Right.
I can see them jumping to 3. But I mean, it's kind of looking cut and dry right now. You're looking at the top 5 teams. Unless something crazy happened, 4 of the top 5 are getting in. Yeah. I still think TCU's going undefeated. USC a lot less likely to do that. Clemson sitting there at number 7.
They need help.
LSU, let's say things shake out the way we think they are. Georgia beats LSU in the SEC championship game. Ohio State beats Michigan next week, then goes on to win the Big Ten Conference. TCU wins, and I think USC is going to drop one of these next 2. Yeah. I can see Clemson getting in there at 4. I can also see maybe Michigan dropping to 4. I don't see a 2-loss team getting in. I really don't.
Either. Even if LSU manages to win the SEC title game, I don't see them getting in.
They've got Bama at 8, and I think that the committee has done that strategically, that if a boatload of shenanigans happen, they can put Alabama in the playoff. Because let's face facts, the committee wants Alabama in the playoffs. Alabama still calls the shots, in my opinion. They get a little bit preferential treatment.
Yeah.
But they're at 8.
Yeah.
And a lot of chaos has to happen, but they're there, in my opinion, for a reason.
Yeah.
Because even Tennessee beat them.
Yeah.
I don't think you can put Alabama above Tennessee right now. Maybe you can now without Hendon Hooker.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think Georgia is probably in there already. If they win next week, they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And Ohio State, I just don't see them. Even if they don't beat Michigan, I don't see them not making the playoff. I think
they're at 2. They probably drop, unless they get blown out. They probably drop to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then Georgia would play Ohio State in the playoff semifinal, and then it would be Michigan, TCU,
or USC.
Or maybe they just flip flop.
Yeah.
All right. But they probably wouldn't want to do Michigan, Ohio State.
Being so close.
2 games in a row.
Right. I don't know. I mean,
I don't see it happen. I see Ohio State beating Michigan pretty good.
And they'll be out of the deal. Probably
maybe 2.
It'll probably be Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, and USC, assuming that both 2 teams actually win out.
If they don't win out,
Clemson's in.
If USC loses, the committee's got a real good case to just drop Michigan just 1 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia plays Michigan again. TCU, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You just don't know.
It's still crazy. We kind of, with 1 week left, we thought maybe we'd have a little bit clearer picture. Yeah. Kind of glad we don't, because this makes it more interesting and exciting.
Top 7 teams are still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. That concludes this week. We're going to be at week 13 and finish the season off strong.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.